Hi everyone, welcome to this Let's Get SaaSy interview with Francisco Mendes. Francisco is a Portuguese growth and marketing expert currently working at Yerbo. We talked about startup funding, growth plans, mental health, and of course, digital marketing. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for a further Let's Get SaaSy episodes. Francisco, thank you very much for joining us today. For starters, I would love to hear a little bit about yourself and what brought you all the way from Europe to Latin America. When did you decide you wanted to start a career in marketing and growth?
Yeah, so thank you very much for having me and for this invitation and for taking the time to talk a little bit about growth and marketing and my experience. I'm Portuguese. I was already working on marketing since day one after graduation, I believe. I started working on marketing, but I never actually planned on going abroad or traveling or going to other places. A lot of my friends did. And so at some point I just realized that I was kind of being left alone from our college group of friends, and so I decided to apply for a Portuguese government program. It's called Inov Contacto. I totally recommend everyone to check it out, where once a year around 300 to 400 candidates would be selected to go abroad for a 6-month experience that's backed by the Portuguese government. And so you get this scholarship, let's say, that the government gives you, and you sign a contract with the government saying that you will accept any posting that they have. So wherever it is that they send you around the world, you know it's not going to be any war zone or anything like that. And you know that you're going to be working on your area of expertise. So in my case, it was digital marketing. And I believe I was the only one from digital marketing that year that applied. And so there was this company out of Colombia called Accendo, which is a performance management software company that was looking for someone. And so they applied to be a host. And that's how the match happened. And so I came to Colombia without a lot of thought around it, and I was very, very happily surprised by all that I saw, and so I was basically the first hire that was not either development or sales, let's say. So I had the chance to just dive right into the startup world, and we were incubated in Boston in Mass Challenge, and yeah, that's just where it started, and I haven't looked back since.
Tell us a little bit about Yerbo. How do you help engineering managers build happier and healthier lives?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for for giving me the opportunity to tell folks about Yerbo. So Yerbo is a mental well-being tool. And so right now, most of our insights come from science-based surveys, like weekly check-ins that you can do either web or ideally you would install the Slack bot, and that will remind you. So that goes through a rotating set of questions. And every week you need to go through that survey, and it takes only 2 minutes. And the cool thing is that then starts painting your dashboards with all the information on your own personal mental well-being. And so there's a lot of leading indicators that the literature has shown that are leading indicators. There are a lot of factors that are leading indicators of burnout risk and also work engagement. And so what the tool does is it assesses how you're doing, how you're dealing with the resources that you have in your job. And that's the team, that's on the individual level, and that's on the company-wide level. And then sees what demands you're facing on that job. And if there's a balance between those two, you're probably doing all right. If there's not, then what the tool does is it kind of raises a flag before you're burned. So this is how it works on the individual level, and then on the company wide and specifically engineering managers level, you're able to see anonymized aggregate data from your squad or your team, and you're able to take action even if you don't know specifically who's reaching a burnout point. You do have insight and trends that will allow you to take guided action to combat that. And I think that the cool thing, if I can add just that, I think that the cool thing about Yerbo is that our approach is not a top down approach where we're going after, I don't know, heads of people or culture and trying to sell them on the idea of using Yerbo. What we're actually doing is there's a lot of engineering folks out there, a lot of squads and teams from whatever company you think of. They install the bot, they start using it, and then when we realize there's 20 people from this company using us, so maybe now we should reach out, right? So that's how we're going to market, and maybe we can get into that a little bit further down the interview if you want. But I think that's the overview.
So the startup environment changes a lot. How do you make sure that your growth plan stays up to date? How often do you revisit your strategy?
Okay, so diving into growth, so there's a couple of ways you do that. So on one end, you need to make sure that you're on top of things professionally. So what that means is you need to be updated as a growth practitioner, be it on a managerial level or individual contributor level. You need to be ambitious in your personal development. You need to be reading all the time. You need to be taking courses online. You start off with the free ones, the HubSpot ones, etc. But then you need to, at some point, you need to put in the work. You need to keep updating yourself. So there's a lot of resources out there. Some are more advanced and some are less advanced. But you need to you need to block some time on your calendar, both for courses and for reading. I do believe that reading is still very important. I'm one of those that still reads. Maybe that shows my age, but I do think that it's important to just blog posts are important and you can learn a lot from them. But I do think that when you dive into a specific subject for 30 minutes to 1 hour, as you can do with a book or with an online course, I think that's a better approach. At least for me, it works better to make sure that I actually learn and go into a subject in some detail. So that's on one side. You need to keep improving, and then on the other side, what you need to do is you need to set not only the objectives really clear as to what it is that you're trying to accomplish with your growth initiatives, but then you need to be looking at trends and trying to spot if what you're doing right now, if your growth model is starting to slow down. If you're starting to see diminishing returns with the channels that you're using, etc., that's when you need to raise a red flag and dive into that. And maybe you need to explore. At that point, you need to pivot a little bit and explore different channels, maybe. So I would say that most important is actually to keep evolving as a team and as an individual, keep learning, doing workshops with the team and all that, inviting people from outside to come and speak. There's a lot of value out there where people sometimes don't even realize what their experience can mean to someone else. And so it's very important to cultivate a network and to keep learning.
So we're intrigued by the startup growth process. Can you tell us a little bit more about how a startup in Latin America begins to grow? What are the steps and roadblocks in the process as well?
Okay, well, Latin America is a big place, so I wouldn't suppose that I can answer for all Latin American startups and how they grow. I do think that it's very similar to how things happen throughout the world, where usually you start off with a founder on a mission and or founders, if possible. That's even better. So they have some problem that they've identified, and they've decided to attack that problem with a solution, right? And so they try and build that solution, and then they go to market. Where I feel like here in LatAm we're still struggling a little bit is exactly there on the go to market phase. I think there's a lot of talent, especially on the technical side. We have a lot of talent. There's money flowing in to the region, so that's also helpful. I do think that we lack maybe that has to do with the maybe the stage where our ecosystem is, where we still need like 5 years to go, so that we hit the maturity rate where there's enough people that have done enough go-to-market plans, have done enough sales, enough customer success, enough marketing and growth roles, successfully and unsuccessfully, but learning all throughout it, and then you'll start to see that we'll be able to accelerate much more than we're doing right now. There's obviously great examples of success. There's great professionals. I do feel that there's a lack of these three major roles. So I would say that the major roadblocks that I find here in LatAm have to do with sales, marketing, and customer success. So once you acquire the customers, on that side, I think those skills are in high demand. All of them are. Obviously, on the technical side, they're also on high demand. Everything is. The market is crazy, but still, I do feel that if LatAm is to progress, and something that we'll see in 5 years' time that will be different, will be all of these alumni from these great startups, from the Rappis and the Platsis and all Kavaks and all those. They will start going into, and that's already happening. They will go back to the ecosystem and start creating their own companies. And all of those that have been working on creating successful teams on these three areas in particular, I think they will be the ones that will move the Latin America ecosystem further down the line.
You mentioned in your LinkedIn profile that you help companies decide when they should hire a new employee or look for an agency. So in your opinion, what's the criteria to decide this? How do you manage that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually added that there because I've been in both sides of the spectrum. So I've worked at companies that believe that everything needed to be done internally so that the knowledge stayed internally. But I've also worked for companies and at companies where we were on the other side of the spectrum. We didn't want to add headcount until something was proven, and then we would bring something in-house, right? So I don't think that there's a golden rule that can apply to all companies at all times, but I do think that there are a few things that you can do. So one thing is trying to understand. So whenever I work with any company, be it with a contract, be it just a pro bono, be it just a conversation with a friend, right? What we always try to do is understand what are the strengths that the company has right now and what it is that it's looking for on this new hire or company or agency or freelance that they're looking to hire. So is this a core item for their growth model or for their product? If it is, then most likely you want to have that in-house. Why? Because you'll be able to learn from it, and that knowledge will stay inside the company. If it's something that you want to test, if it's a new channel that you want to test, say that you want to test maybe events and you've never done events and there's no one in-house that has the experience to do events. Does it make sense to go for 2 months looking for a person that you're going to onboard, then bringing that person in, onboarding that person for another couple of months until that person can start and do the first event, and then see, okay, was this successful or not? And if it isn't successful, are you prepared to then maybe having to pivot this person that's an expert on the field into a different role? So I think that's what you're looking to understand. If it is something that you know for sure that it's going to be a main strategy for you, a main acquisition channel, in this case in particular, I would say bring it in-house. If not, try and use a freelance to do it. I think there's a lot that you can do by hiring externally that will help you narrow down your focus internally and just outsource everything that you want to test or everything that you want just to, that you can create an actual project and outsource that project. So yeah, I know I wasn't a total direct with my answer, but I do think that there's a lot of caveats that you need to do to say, how do you decide to go one way or the other?
All right, Francisco, thank you very much for joining us today. This was really insightful.
Thanks so much for having me. It was amazing being here, and yeah, guys, keep doing what you're doing. I love it, and whenever you need to talk to me again, just let me know. Happy to talk to any of the folks watching this as well. Reach out to me, and if you want to talk marketing or growth, happy to do it.
All right, thanks everyone for watching this interview, and stay tuned for further Let's Get SaaSy editions.